Drive continues, powered by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Best bets later in the hour. The Leafs are in California. They take on the Sharks tomorrow night. We'll get to that a little bit later in the hour. We caught up with Ross Atkins earlier this afternoon. We'll recap that chat in a few moments. Home opener tomorrow for the Jays. You can see LeBron with Pat McAfee for like over an hour today. I guess they recorded it yesterday. And it's compelling, man. Like LeBron, the thing is about LeBron is he'll talk. You may not love what he says, but he doesn't give like 3-word answers. Like he's talking. He's got things to say. And whenever he says anything, and when he sat down for this interview, you just knew the internet was going to explode, because I don't think anyone causes more of a reaction in sports than LeBron. Like I can't think of anyone else doing an hour sit down that's currently playing that would lead to more sound bites or more people dissecting it or people being angry about things he said or happy about what he said.
And McAfee would get into the right things, too.
Yeah, exactly. And McAfee, he's poking and prodding and kind of getting him, feeling good. And he was in a good mood, and he was taking shots amazingly at, like, Stephen A. Smith and Brian Windhorst. Like, those are ESPN guys. And he's on ESPN with McAfee, which is always, potentially uncomfortable in the future. But I
thought Windhorst was his guy.
Windhorst is a guy that grew up covering him in Cleveland, followed him to Miami, and now I guess has followed him to L.A. But LeBron, the way he was
followed, like, did he move to Miami?
Yeah,
did he?
Yeah. So when LeBron was a Cavalier, Windhorst was covering him closely for a newspaper in Cleveland. And then when he made the decision and went to Miami, ESPN hired Windhorst and sent him to Miami. Basically, that's my understanding, to cover LeBron and the Heat as a member of ESPN, and the rest is history. But it was a big get for McAfee. It was interesting. It was on TSN today. I was watching it, and he made one comment about like Giannis in particular, players of this era going back to the 70s and putting up big numbers, that has a lot of the old school, basketball people unhappy with it, feeling like it's disrespectful. I'm curious how you guys would feel about this as former athletes, played in the 90s. This is what LeBron had to say about Giannis, and if he were in the 70s, what kind of numbers he could put up.
You trying to tell me Giannis wouldn't be able to play an NBA game in the 70s?
Handshake. He wouldn't be able to do it.
Giannis,
neither would you.
Giannis Antetokounmpo would have 250 points in a game in the 70s. 250.
So he's laying it on thick. He's joking around, like 250. Yeah. But there, like Barkley's going to hear this and snap. And guys now are going to say, you're telling me Dr. J and Wilt and Kareem and all those greats of the 70s, like they're going to take that personally.
Well, they
250 points.
You know why they will? Because the game was different back. You play against the Pistons, and that Lambeer punches you in the face in the Kiev just for fun. Like, these guys, they play a different style of game, and that would be my argument from new school to old school, is there were guys that wanted to kill you. Chris Pronger would chop your arm off for fun in the late 90s.
That's
and stuff.
90s and 2000s.
I'm talking,
exactly.
So the 70s, Pat Quinn, chopping guys over the head, and again, I'm being facetious, but I look at it, it's a different game. So you talk about how today's athlete is built, but go back to then when the game was different. It was treated different, and you paid a price to get, for example, in basketball, under the bucket. You paid a price to get there. So the old school guys are going to go, you'd be fine to get to the bucket, but somebody's going to punch you in the face or elbow you. You're
I
come
think
and
the
get
biggest
some.
problem in the league was, and it just came to me right now, I think that there's so many non-compelling storylines and teams that are grabbing your attention. The Golden States are gone. The LeBron in Cleveland. The LeBron with the super team in Miami. That all there is to do is talk about GOATs and eras and who would have been better, because there's nothing else that's worthy of talking about. And that's what they do all day. I'm so glad hockey has somewhat normal conversations about who's the best player in the game now. We don't go back and it's like, it's Bobby Orr versus like the conversations and the comparisons. Like, there's a Jordan and LeBron debate daily.
Well, that's amazing. That's the amazing thing about this comment from LeBron is I think what he's doing is he's trying to represent his era. And he speaks on it like everyone takes shots at us, and people become too comfortable taking shots at us. And he said that earlier in the interview, and everyone's getting too carried away and too comfortable with their criticism. And he also spoke about how tough it was when he originally showed up, and it was immediate. Can he match Jordan? Can he be a one-name player like Magic and Bird and Kareem?
Right.
And yet now he's feeding the beast. Like he's pushing that away, saying it's stupid and ridiculous and unfair. And now he's circling back by saying, oh, well, we could go back there and score 250. And it's like you're feeding the beast now. Because now what's happening on ESPN and everywhere else will be, could LeBron score 250 in 1974? And who the hell cares? Like, what does that even mean? What is it?
Exactly. Who cares?
It doesn't matter, like, what he could do 40 years ago. Conversely, what a guy from the 70s, Bobby Orr, would he be great on the Leafs power play today? I guess. I don't know.
Who cares?
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't really matter. Yet he's feeding the beast, and it's just going to continue and continue and continue. And he's almost fallen victim to it. And he did it today with McAfee.
But he's getting criticism, too. And rightfully so. People are looking at this league and going, these guys can't play back-to-back games.
Yeah.
They're calling them soft. They're saying.
He's also getting criticism because he got the organization that he plays for to draft his kid, to play his kid.
Hire J.J. Redick, which he fights back on and jokes about and is passive-aggressive
he
about.
claims he had nothing to do with J.J. Redick, the guy that he has a podcast with.
I'm telling you, as great as he is, and we all acknowledge he is,
all-time great.
He deserves a lot of the criticism for exactly what you just said, Brian. He brings it on himself. He doesn't go nobody forced him to go on Pat McAfee, and start jawing off. It's him, like him doing the interviews, him doing all the talking. I again, different times, media in the 90s when Jordan around, like he did his media and moved on. And then you hear stories. The guy was golfing. It was a different world.
Yep.
But LeBron he shines a light on himself all the time. So and then he's upset when people criticize him and criticize, oh yeah, you got your son on the team. No, I didn't. Yeah, you did. We all know you did. But
yeah, exactly. It's the chicken or the egg, and it just comes around and goes around. And that would be interesting. Like we were joking about the hot tub time machine, like the idea of sending athletes back.
Yeah.
And the argument is, well, today there's so much more in shape and they have more knowledge of the game, and all of that is true. But if you actually had to play based on the standards of that era, where, I'll give you an example, game's not televised, which means whatever happens in this rink, that's no one else sees it, man. So if you want to go and try to go end to end, there's a chance Pat Quinn will cross-check you in the head, and he's not getting a penalty, let alone a suspension.
Dude, me and Noodles might have played in games in the 90s that were not
televised.
Yeah, they might not have had the NHL package back then.
Right. There used to be, I remember as a kid, there'd be a bunch of games, Leaf game, just not on TV that night. So
I remember that. Why the hell
only.
can't I watch the game?
Yeah, they're in
tonight.
St. Louis. It's on Tuesday. It's just not on TV. It's like, okay, so you're telling me I literally have to read the newspaper the next day to find out what happened here? And, it's one ref, and he's hungover, and he's like, didn't see it. It's like, man, I'm getting killed here.
Yeah,
That's what I want to see. Go send McDavid back to 1974 and tell him, no one's watching, and there's no rules. Go do whatever you're going to do. Wind up, man. But let's see what happens here. All right, so we'll get into the Leafs and Sharks a little bit later in the hour. But the Jays are homestand for the first time in years because of the pandemic, because of the renovations down at the Rogers Center. First time in like 6 years. They're actually going to start opening day at the Dome. And we caught up with the GM of the Jays, Ross Atkins. Something we haven't done in a while. I haven't caught up with Ross in a long time. After what was a long offseason, a lot of ups and downs, but opening day's finally here. And we began by asking Ross just that. How beneficial, how happy are you that you actually get to play at the Rogers Center Game 1 this year?
Yeah, it feels good with the pandemic hitting us 2 years and then the renovations. It has been a while. So it's a much better transition and a lot more excitement around opening day when it is at home, fired up, especially for the first-year guys. But yeah, fired up for Bo and Vladdy, too, because it's special for them, guys that have been here, like Alejandro and Varsh and George and Jose. So it'll be a big day tomorrow. Looking forward to it.
Ross, before we get ranting and raving on this show on a daily basis, why don't you give us some expectations this year so we know what we're getting into? Like, what do you think is reasonable for the Jays heading into this season?
Yeah, I mean, more raving than ranting, I would say.
Okay.
I like it. All right.
No, it feels good. We've, the team's had some success. This group that's been together for a while has had some success, and we had a brutal year last year. And they seem to have grown from it, and getting spit out of the playoffs a couple of times, having some crash landings has just made us a little bit better and a little bit stronger. And then to come in after a trade deadline of acquiring some good players that has risen the floor and added depth, really good stories out of Vladdy and Bowden and Ernie Clement last year, bringing in guys like Alan Roden to start the season. Will Wagner on the roster is exciting. And then, of course, the offseason acquisitions that, our bullpen adds and Anthony Santander, Andres Jimenez, Max Scherzer. Those are really exciting pieces to add to that group, and they've transitioned well. I think there is a difference when guys have some link to their contracts that come in and immediately fit in, and they're thinking about team, they're thinking about winning, and all players always do have that on some part of their windshield, and hopefully it's just taking up more of their windshields, because in our view it takes a little pressure off when you focus on winning and focus on the team.
Ross, you talked about length of the contract. You signed Alejandro Kirk to a 5-year extension. Was that the right wheelhouse as far as term and money to fit for both sides, or what was the thought process of locking him up that long?
Yeah, I mean, that's what it takes, right? It takes both sides aligning on the value. And when you can find the shared risk is when extensions happen. It's hard to do free agent deals on with extension dialogue, and with Alejandro, it lined up.
Well, there's a couple other guys looking for extensions right now, Ross, and I know you're aware of who they would be, and that would be Vladdy and Bichette. And I saw your presser down at the Rogers Center earlier this afternoon, and I heard you speaking Spanish. And are you fluent in Spanish? Like, what's the story there?
No, I grew up in Miami. I played baseball in Venezuela and Spain, and I do speak Spanish, but I don't call myself fluent. I can speak baseball, and I can get by. Probably not going to host a talk show or sell.
You got to order drinks in Spanish.
Well, he knows
Ross.
the swear words. He knows the swear words.
If you order a
That's
drink
what it
in
is.
Spanish, man, you got some action play in there. I like that play.
Big time with Ross Atkins. So, obviously, you're being asked a million times about Vladdy and the future, and nothing's done yet. But I want to ask you about his role in this and the process that he has decided to take in terms of speaking. He's done some interviews. He's gone out of his way, in my opinion, to say, "Don't forget the Yankees. I'll speak with the Yankees next summer." And the Red Sox, and he's on Instagram liking pictures of him in a Red Sox uniform and him in a Yankee uniform. How have you reacted to those actions and to Vladdy, his approach to all of this?
Yeah, it's interesting because obviously you would always prefer that things stay, the more private, the better. But I think the world of Vladdy, my interactions with him are very productive. They're very warm. We obviously have feedback for him at times that isn't so warm, whether that be talking about baseball or just how we can be better. But it comes from such a good place. Like, there is no doubt in my mind that Vladdy wants to be a Blue Jay, and that's the most important thing to us. And hopefully we'll be able to line up and share some of that risk with him, as I mentioned about Alejandro.
So the word risk, can you give us any more detail to what that means from your standpoint? Like, is that about team building? Is that about budget? Is that the owner?
Yeah.
Like, what does that
Yeah.
What does that mean?
There's another year to play. It's different to use free agent values and is just to talk about extension is one aspect of it. And free agency is very different than an extension deal because there's other suitors and there's momentum and there's things you can't account or control for. So trying to line up on objective values is how extensions happen. And sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't. So it really just comes down to what the value we think is fair and reasonable and whether or not that lines up.
Will
and
you
if you're taking on more, then you're taking on too much risk.
Absolutely. And could the way you define risk be affected by the way he plays this year?
Well, everything matters. Like everything's information. Performance matters. There's nothing that we're not going to factor into the decision.
Okay, with Ross Atkins, and in free agency, you landed Max Scherzer. It's he's broken camp with you. He's up here. I think he's slated to start the third game of the series against the Orioles. Where do we stand here with his thumb, with his body holding up? Because I know a lot of people in Toronto, a lot of Blue Jay fans could not wait to see him pitch, and dying to see him live. I think you're going to get a lot of fans lining up for road trips if they know he's slotted to pitch in Detroit or Cleveland, Seattle, whatever. Where do things stand with Max, and how confident are you that you can get close to a full season of production out of him?
I feel very good. I'm very glad that he's here. His performance has been ridiculous. He has absolutely dominated every hitter he's faced in spring, and his recovery has been as we expected. As he's communicated, we knew it wasn't going to be perfect, but he's found ways to recover, and we expect that to continue. And in the event that we need to be careful or cautious, we'll try to be proactive with that. But we feel like he's in a good place. He's very honest with us, obviously, about how he's feeling, and we'll try to be proactive in managing it.
And you guys, as a group, yourself and Mark, your staff, you've always invested heavily in the rotation. And you look at the way your rotation stacks up. I was having a chat earlier this afternoon. Steve Phillips was saying he thinks you've got the best rotation in the American League East, and other teams in the East have taken hits, whether it's via free agency or injuries. And I'm curious how you look at, presuming health, Gausman, Bassett, Scherzer, Francis, if he pitches like he did in August and September, you've got an ace on your hands there. But how do you think your rotation stacks up, and how important is it for them to set the tone for this? We focus so much on offense and run production, and your bullpen turning things around after last year. But how much of just getting the ball rolling is reliant on your rotation doing what you believe they can do?
I do think it is very important, and we have put a lot of resources into it, and we also have some exciting arms coming healthy that hopefully will be in the fold here in the second half of the season, and certainly beyond that. But my view on that is guys who have been successful and reliable and dependable and still have very good weapons have an openness to evolving, that you're going to put yourself in a very good position. And we've seen that with Jose making adjustments this offseason. Kevin Gausman had an electric spring. His stuff was more than effective. Bowden's last two outings were the Bowden we saw in August and September. As we've already talked about, Scherzer and Bassett was extremely effective over the course of spring. The thing that I fall back on with them, and it's something that Pat Gillick talked about for years, is dependable and reliable, and they are that, with openness to improve, and their weapons are not showing decline. So those are all good signs for us.
How often are your starting pitchers, even bullpen arms, curious about how the rest of the roster is going to play out? In other words, you got Varsho on the IL to start the season. You've probably got youth playing third base. It sounds like we're not quite certain who's going to play left field every day. How important is it for the staff to kind of have some familiarity and understanding that they're going to get defensive help on a daily basis?
Yeah, I think that's been a big selling point for us. And over the years, we've been a very good defensive team and just gotten better and better the last 2 years with a Team Gold Glove. We add Varsh back into that fold, will be an electric defense, having added Andres Jimenez to it. And I think that was attractive to Max Scherzer. And it is something that, we lean into, and it's something that is important, that they, understand what is behind them and that they can trust what's behind them.
With Ross Atkins, I mentioned, I think just prior to having you on, obviously you guys are starting at home, and that's a big benefit, and you got a couple of series to kickstart things. But your first 6 weeks, is crazy. Like when the schedule came out, you got Baltimore twice, Boston twice. You go into New York to play the Mets, into New York to play the Yankees, at Houston. You got the Braves in town. Like when you look at the schedule, obviously you're happy to start at home, but did you have to send an email to Rob Manfred and say what's happening here? Like this is a really crazy start you got, and I get it feels like a sink or swim almost by May 1st. I mean, I don't want to be too hyperbolic, but this is a big start for your club.
Yeah, it is. It seems like it always is in the AL East. The balanced schedule we're not benefiting too much from in our start because of the other opponents that you mentioned that we're playing. But we really don't focus on that. We focus on things we can control. It's not something that's daunting to our players at all. And it's something that we, as I said, just can't control and embrace the challenge of it.
Ross, I was listening this morning as well, and one of the questions was asked, it was just about the criticism. How do you enjoy this on a day-to-day basis? How do you go about doing it? Is it like for a general manager in this position in big league sports, the only way to truly enjoy it, I mean, to the top level, is winning the ultimate prize?
Well, I mean, certainly that is our goal. But I enjoy every single day. I don't enjoy losing. That is, extremely painful for me. It hits me extremely hard. But as we ask of our players, we have to learn to deal with, ups. We got to learn to deal with downs. And I am very fortunate and I'm honored to come to work with a great deal of responsibility every day to do everything in my power to compete at a sport at the highest level. And I embrace that every day and feel very fortunate with a great deal of joy.
How much comfort do you take in, the familiarity around you that, John Schneider's now into, I think, year 3 here. Mark's been here the whole time. The ownership has not changed. Like there's been a lot of consistency, and Mark Shapiro has spoken about that he's a believer in consistency. Does that allow you to breathe easier? Does it affect your mentality on a daily basis? How do you respond to that?
Yeah, I mean, my heart palpitations are probably at, varying between as high as they could possibly be, or, like breathing easy is not something that, we're extremely driven and extremely competitive. And that comes with pressure and that comes with stress and emotion. But the people around me is exactly what gives me confidence. Not necessarily peace and just knowing that things will work out, but it gives me confidence. And working with Pete Walker for every day that I've been here, John Schneider has been here every day that I've been here, just in different roles. And there's a long list that we have a great group. We've added to the group, and our hitting coaches and our pitching staff that supports Pete this year, they've transitioned incredibly well. Having DeMarlo and Donnie Hale, our baseball ops, adding David Bell and James Click to it. There's so much, just bandwidth and power, brain power here that I get better every day. I learn from the group that I'm working with, and I do feel very fortunate.
Opening day is it's always a blast. It'll be fun tomorrow. It'll be electric downtown, walking into the park. It'll be a packed house, and it's a marathon from there. So enjoy it, Ross, and we appreciate you doing this today. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks, Hayes. Thanks for having me on.
There he is, Ross Atkins, GM of the Blue Jays. Home opener tomorrow. Jose Barrios on the mound against Baltimore. It's a big one. Got a big series to start.
Special shout out to Hayes as well at the end.
Yeah, I noticed that.
That was a bit.
That was very direct.
Maybe he saw the award nominees come out and he said, "I gotta give this guy a little shout out."
Possibly. Yeah. Yep. Shout out to the Canadian Screen Awards. Absolute honor to be nominated.
You did go a little Larry King too, so that was fine. You were
I know. I had a lot more there, man. Like we didn't get a lot into Bo, and he mentioned a few of the new players that are here, and you got to flush out the season. You got to get going, and there's no point in asking about spring because every GM's going to say the same thing. It was awesome. Everyone's happy. Everyone feels amazing. We can't wait. But it starts for real tomorrow. Yeah, it's a long season, man.
Yeah,
and
for the guy that was asking us to lay off the Coors Light slow pitches questions. It's like the season starts tomorrow, and it's like, what do you want us to grill the guy on day 0?
Well, again, going back to last season, again, you've kind of turned the page. I think even the most pessimistic Blue Jay fan has done that. It's time to move on, and Ohtani's not here, and Soto's not here, and Vladdy's not signed. That's just a reality.
Yeah.
That's what it is. So, Ross is aware of where the market is and how people are feeling about things. But it's a big season for him, Shapiro, Schneider, everyone involved.
All of them.
And it starts tomorrow, absolutely. The Leafs are in San Jose tomorrow night. Ryan Warsofsky will join us, their head coach. It's been a challenging year for the Sharks because, they're last in the league.
Yeah.
Yet this was something I'm sure they were prepared for. They knew it was going to be a struggle. They've kind of torn it down to the studs, and now they're building it back up. So we'll catch up with Ryan and get his take on the whole season and what to expect moving forward, including tomorrow night when the Leafs are in town. Get to our best bets a little bit later in the hour. Might have to mix in some picks for the Houston Open, right? McIlroy's in there. I think Scheffler's playing in this. Actually, a pretty good field as we're 2 weeks away from the Masters. 2 weeks tomorrow is Thursday of the Masters, the opening round. You see Jim Nantz announced his retirement from the Masters call.
Dude, I thought it was going to be like 2 years from now, and he's going to retire in 2036.
That's ridiculous.
Who makes that call?
Dude, I thought for sure it was going to be like this might be his last Masters, but no, he said, I think in 2036 is the perfect time to go out.
That'll be 50 years in the booth, which is an incredible run.
But how old is he?
60. He's in his 60s, maybe 65.
I thought he was older than that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he'd be in his mid-60s. He's been doing it for 30. He's been doing it for 30 years, 40 years, almost 40 years. He's been doing it for a long time. Yeah. But I got pulled in, man, hook, line, and sinker. The same thing with like a clickbait. Like Jim Nantz announces retirement. I'm like, wow, he's done. Like this will be it. And then I click on it, and he goes, 2036. I will be hanging it up at Augusta.
Perfect time to walk away.
Yeah. You also have to be pretty comfortable with who you are within a company.
Exactly. I was thinking that too. It's like they could tap you on the shoulder earlier than that and say, Jimmy, take a lap.
Right. Hey, Jim.
Yeah.
I think it's enough. I think it's enough on our end. Jim Nantz calling his retirement. What a great call. What a baller move. All right, we'll head out to San Jose. Leaf Sharks tomorrow night. We'll get to that. Our best bets later in the hour. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, best bets later in the hour. A couple of picks for the Houston Open as well. And the Leafs are in California. It's late in the season for them to get out there, man. Usually it's a November, maybe end of January trip. And this is a business trip. Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, and you're out. And then they've got the Panthers on Wednesday at home next week. And that's the biggest game of the year. Like once you get to Florida, it's as big as it gets, considering what they're fighting for right now in the Atlantic Division. But San Jose, we saw them in town a couple of weeks ago. Resilient group, man. The Leafs had them. They were up 2-0. The Leafs were up 2-0 on San Jose. San Jose battles back. They get into overtime. They end up winning that game. And I guess the Leafs will be looking for some redemption tomorrow night in San Jose. Let's head there now, catch up with their head coach. Here is Ryan Warsofsky. How you doing, Ryan?
Good, guys. How are you guys doing?
We're doing very well. We appreciate you doing this. And, this. I'm curious in terms of what you expect tomorrow night with the Leafs rolling through town. And, like I said, a couple of weeks ago, you were in town. I think it was a Monday night. Your group battled. You end up winning that game. Do you believe that redemption could be on the minds of the Maple Leafs tomorrow night?
Yeah, I think so. I think they're a pretty smart group. It's a talented group over there. They're coming off a big win the other night. Their game has really matured. So it's not like we're catching a young team. I think they're going to be ready, and I think we're going to have to match it. And, it's going to be a tough test for us.
Well, Ryan, you talked about, a veteran team with the Toronto Maple Leafs. You've got some veterans in your lineup, but mostly you've got some kids that are, still learning the game at the National Hockey League level. How patient do you have to be with the day-to-day teaching and of them going through the process to, and their progression as they learn on the job?
Yeah, that's the word that word patience is something that I've started to to really learn in the National Hockey League, especially with the young group, like you said, that we have. They're just going to go through stretches. They're going to go through moments in games and where they're learning and they're teaching moments, and they have to learn from them. And from Macklin to Will to the Cam Lund that we just brought in, there's going to be some moments from here on out, and there's been like that all year of teaching moments that hopefully they get into the situations that we've been in, whether that's a lead in the third period or down a goal in the third period, or feeling the momentum shifts in hockey games, when to make a play, when not to make a play. Those are all big moments that ultimately, end up, helping to win hockey games or lose hockey games. And, I think putting the habits and the foundation in to win hockey games in the future has been, the pressing need at the moment.
Ryan, you mentioned Celebrini. How has it been dealing with him this year? Young guy coming in with high expectations, the number 1 overall pick, and he's been incredible. How have you handled him, like managing the difference between teaching, as you just mentioned, and motivating and asking him to be your best player on most nights?
Yeah, well, the good thing is there's not much motivation that I need to give him. He's a very self-driven kid that wants to get better every time he's on the ice. He drags guys into the fight just the way how competitive he is. He wants to get better each and every day. He's extremely coachable. The one thing that has really impressed me is his 200-foot game. Very reliable defensively. Yeah, he's made some mistakes, but he's learned some mistakes. He picks up things really quickly when you coach him and teach him. And he's a special player. But what I think is even more important, that he's a special person, and he wants to be the solution to get this team back to their winning ways. And he's driving it. He's getting more and more comfortable. Obviously, in the second half of the season, since that Four Nations break of kind of being our number 1 center after we traded Granlund, and there's been some frustrating nights, but he continues to push forward. Comes to the rink with great energy, great passion, wants to get better. So he's been awesome to coach, awesome for our group.
With Ryan Warsofsky, the head coach of the Sharks, leaves in San Jose tomorrow night. And, the last 2 years, the first overall picks, highly touted, Canadian kids going to teams that are kind of rebuilding and retooling. And we've talked a lot about Bedard in Chicago and how, we keep saying, the Blackhawks, they got to help him. They got to put him in a position to succeed because there's so much pressure on him. And it feels like the same thing applies with Celebrini because he's so good. You guys obviously are, struggling this year and you're not in contention for the playoffs. Not that was a surprise. But I'm curious how you plan on balancing this moving forward because right now he's running on adrenaline. Everything's fresh. Everything's been great. How do you balance, allowing Celebrini to grow, but also insulating him, making sure you put him with the right line mates so he can personally have success, but then marry it with team success and team goals into the future?
Yeah, well, I think the biggest thing, and you look around the league, if you want to have, individual success, you need your teammates, and team success comes with individual success. And we've been preaching that all year. And yeah, I know the wins aren't where we want them, but we're developing habits. We're developing winning habits. We're way more competitive than we've been the years past. We're in hockey games. We're putting ourselves in situations, in third periods, down a goal or up a goal, to be in some tight situations where we can continue to learn and eventually win those hockey games. And as far as Mac, I think individual goals are super important. I want him to win the Rookie of the Year, and we're going to help him get there, the best way we can. And like you said, giving him some line mates. We brought in Toffoli this summer, who's been a really good player for us and helped us a lot as far as helping these young players go through the process of the schedule grind and on and off the ice. And we brought in Barclay Goodrow, who's really helped these young guys. So we have some good veterans around them that have won Stanley Cups, and I think our young guys kind of gravitate towards them, and it's been good. And again, I know the wins have been frustrating to come by, but we really believe that we're starting to really build, and we have a big off season, and we're excited for the future here.
I saw a tweet that you have a connection with Spencer Carberry and Bednar out in Colorado. What's gone on? Is it South Carolina and the East Coast League that you guys were together in the same organization or at different times? what's with that place that's developed you guys as coaches in the National Hockey League?
Yeah, it's a special place, a special organization. I worked for Carbs for 3 years, and then Bedsy was before Spencer, and Cal McLean's out in Calgary was there, and Rob Kincannon, the president there, kind of pieces it all together, and we got a great bond. We have a group chat going where we're talking quite a bit through the season, and especially a lot in the off season when usually we all try to get together and get back down there and play around at golf and try to get better and learn from each other. And I can't thank Bedsy and Carbs enough for what they've meant for me in my career, and supportive, and obviously I think Bedsy, I relate towards him a little bit. His first year in Colorado was pretty similar as far as the struggle, and obviously Carbs has got a team in the top of the top right now, and they're both great coaches, but they're great people, and they want to help, they want to support you, and if you have questions, they're there in a blink of an eye. So we got a special little fraternity going down there, and it's obviously a special place and a great organization.
Ryan, what have you seen from the Russian Carey Price, we like to call him, Askarov? He's been up and down for you, played 13 games for you. He's playing with the Barracuda as well. But when he gets to the NHL on a full-time basis, what do you think his ceiling is? Because he's certainly got some talent.
Oh, yeah, big time. He is an electric goaltender, I would say. He's extremely athletic. He reads the game extremely well. You could just tell he's got some really good natural instinct to reading the game and when where the next shot's coming from. He's got some personality towards him. He's ultra competitive. We obviously saw it there early in the season when he came up. Played some really good games for us. And he's again came into a new organization, meeting new people, new goalie coaches, and got a little dinged up there through the American League, but. We know he's got a high ceiling to be a really, one of the better goaltenders in our league, and we're excited about his future for sure.
Leaf Sharks tomorrow night. Should be a fun one. Enjoy it, Ryan. Really appreciate you doing this. Thank you.
Yep, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on.
You got it. Ryan Warsofsky, head coach of the San Jose Sharks. And that game can be heard on TSN Radio tomorrow night. And it's a late start. First game on a Western trip. I think it's at 10:30 p.m. Eastern time, and at least you got to get out there and get it, man. Like you got to get it. You got to go and get 2 points.
You got to have a long nap tomorrow afternoon.
Big
what
time.
It is, because that day is so long when you first get out there, because your body is used to Eastern time, and you're like, okay, you're looking at your clock, and it's. If you're used to getting up at 7 o'clock in the morning at Eastern time, it's 4 o'clock in the morning out there, and you're like, "What is going on?" And you're yawning, and it's a mess. Like even when I call
just
games,
remember
up there,
Jamie going to I would just go to. I'd be like, "Screw this!" Everything was screwed up, and I would be sitting around my hotel room. I'm just going to go to the rink. But then you go to the rink, you end up taping 5 sticks, and then untape. Like you wander around, and it's a bit of a gong show.
Yeah.
But you got to do it. You got to just figure out a way to. That's why it's the big leagues, man. It doesn't matter when the puck drops, how you're feeling, time change. You like when that ref drops that puck, man. You got to figure out a way to be ready to go.
Which would be tougher, in your opinion, the East Coast playing a late game West Coast, or West Coast playing an early game on the East Coast? Because you'll see that where like L.A. will fly in and play at like 1 o'clock at the Garden in New York, and it's 10 a.m. their body clock.
Yeah.
Dude, I give all the props to the guys in the West the way they travel. Like if you look at the Edmonton Oilers schedule or some of the teams after the Four Nations, like Edmonton started out in the East, and then they went back for like 2 games. Then they're back to like that is
Buffalo,
a crazy
and, like,
schedule, man.
It is, and that's why I wholeheartedly believe. When you look at the actual, like, miles, like playing in the East, for example, for the most part, say you play in the New York area, there's a lot of times where you could be in your own bed or laying on your couch by 12:31 a.m. from playing on a road game.
I played in North Carolina, and you could make arrangements to be meeting up with people in Carolina after a game in Philly at 12:15. Like, you could be at a bar in Carolina after playing a game in Philly at 12:15 at night. Like that's how quick the turnaround is. That game's over, man. People would be shocked how fast a professional locker room can clear out and be on a bus and on a bird. Like it's within 2 hours. Everything's wrapped up and you're in the air.
And San Jose is a weird one. I don't know if people know this. There's a noise.
You got to get out.
You got to be wheels up before 11 p.m. So there's times where you've started 7:30 out there, and it is like 10:22, and you've finished the game, and they are yelling at you like, do your media, but ice on the plane. Like guys are sprinting to the bus so that you can get onto the plane so that you can be wheels up, because apparently it's like a massive fine if you don't. Like they won't let you take off if it's after 11 p.m. So you got to, if you're moving on, like it is, let's move it right now. Like it's some weird stuff. Like you don't get a chance to visit with people and stretch and do all of that. Like it is like go time. Let's get the hell out of here. It's a weird setup.
Well, and you want to get to LA too, right? Like if you got a day off the next day, you want to be in LA. Like get out of here, get me down to LA. 2 games down there, catch and release, and you're out. Like this is a business trip for the Leafs. They're not there for a week. You know, it's a quick.
There's no sightseeing. It's 3 games and 4 nights and get lost.
We played a game in San Jose, and I was meeting somebody at a bar called Jane's House in L.A. And we played in San Jose, and I was at the bar by 1 a.m. in L.A. after the game, like meeting up with a crew. It was crazy.
That's the move, man.
Maybe one of the coolest things about the old LA rink was we played a game there, and there was like win, lose, or draw. Guys from both teams. There was this place called the Forum Club.
Yeah, you're going upstairs.
At the arena. And like coaches would be there. And it was like you were in LA. It didn't matter win, lose, or draw. You were going to go up there and have a little peek, and just everybody was having a beer. And it was like we're in LA where everyone's going to put a smile on.
That's great, man.
Yeah.
Because it is. There's nothing like it. Like LA is just a different beast, man.
It really is.
Yeah, it's a different beast. All right, we'll get to our best bets powered by FanDuel. Mix in a few golf picks as well for the Houston Open. This is a big one. Good field. This is the prep, right? For a lot of guys, this is it. Playing this week, and then I'll see you in Augusta, Georgia in 2 weeks. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, best bets powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app tonight. I'm looking at the Stars in Edmonton, and I think tonight you realize – without Leon, without Connor, I'm riding with the Stars tonight. I think this is a tough one for Edmonton. They haven't played in a while. They're at home. It's a big game, late game, Wednesday night, but I'm on the Stars tonight. Today's best bets powered by FanDuel Live same-game parlays are now available for every NHL game on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Please play responsibly, 19+, physically located in Ontario. All right, you want to mix in like a 4 or 5 pack for the Houston Open?
Who do you want, Scotty or Rory? Take your pick. I'll give you any one you want.
I'll take Scheffler. I think Scotty back in Texas.
Dumb play, dude.
Back in
Rory
Texas
all day.
McIlroy's not going back to back, I don't think. I mean, he just won at the Players. He looks great. I don't know if would you want to go back to back before Augusta? Like, would you want to have that kind of winning vibe and that kind of atmosphere and that kind of spotlight? Maybe you can't avoid the spotlight anyway.
Dude, those guys are so much better than everybody else. They just can't help themselves anyway.
Well, that's why, like, Scheffler's going to break out at some point, man. Like, him, quote-unquote, struggling, the guy's still, like, he's well under par. He's making cuts. He's just got to get his putter going a little bit, and once that happens, lights out. So I will take Scheffler.
I'm going to take a couple guys here that you might not take anyway, so I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to take Max Grieserman. He is my sneaky guy in the weeds these days.
Him,
and I'm going to
really
take Alex Smalley for one reason. We have the same coach, Ralph Bauer. Let's go, Ralphie. Let's get one of the boys on the board. And I'm going to go with Steven Yager. Jaromir Jagr.
Jaromir Jagr is a good player, man. And he's been in the hunt a fair amount recently.
He won this tournament last year, I think.
That's right. He's a really good player. Okay, I mean, this is a bomber's paradise. I'm going to take Pendrith as my Canadian. Taylor Pendrith. I think guys are going to be bombing the golf ball down there. Wide open fairways. I'll take Sahith Theegala. He's not going to be throwing any clubs. I'll take Sahith. I love him this week. And what do I have, a third one that I can throw out? You know what I'm going to go with? I'm going to go with a guy who's been red hot recently. He won a couple of weeks ago. He loves a Tilly hat. I'm going with Joe Highsmith. Joe Highsmith.
Dude, you're not taking
And his
Joe
Tilly hat.
Highsmith with the Tilly hat in the reverse claw. I don't even know what that putting
Dude,
grip is.
I've never seen that before. I'm glad you brought that up because I made a note to mention it. This guy goes cross-handed claw
Yeah,
on his putting. I've never seen that before.
yeah.
But
he
yeah.
grips it like a lobster.
All right, let me.
I got to throw one more guy at you,
Yeah, you go.
Maverick McNeely.
Okay, you got McNeely. I'll take Jake Knapp. And I'll take Wyndham Clark. Go ahead. You can pick one more.
I'm going to take a guy that has a nice hat himself, Harry Hall.
Harry Hall, man. He loves that hat. He loves the Canadian Open, too. He's at the
Dude,
RBC
slowest
Canadian
golfer
Open.
on the planet, but let's go Harry Hall.
He loves the Peaky Blinders vibe on the course. He loves it. Khakis and that hat. He's a throwback. He's a beauty. All right, the picks are in. I love it. Leafs in action tomorrow. The Blue Jays in action tomorrow. The Raptors in action tonight down in Brooklyn. So we got a lot of action for the show tomorrow. Thanks to everyone behind the scenes for helping out. We appreciate it. Everyone for tuning in today. TV, radio, podcast, web. We appreciate that. We're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy the games tonight. We're back tomorrow at
Duffy who? Hazy's going to take home the award.
Come on,
4
dude.
p.m.
Hardware.
That's
The
why you're not
hardware.
nominated.
The hardware. 4 p.m.
We'll chat then.